Welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Podcast. My name is Speir, and I'm going to be your guide to enjoying the great outdoors. Well, we finally did it. We got all the way to the end of the gear section, gearing up what we can take with us, describing all these different items from, metal containers and pots and pans and cooking gear and water gear and shelter gear, and, all these things to take with us in our backpack. Next, after this one, we're going to start getting into actual shelter, and we're going to be breaking shelter down over a several week period and get into the nitty gritty. But today we're in the miscellaneous items of the book on page 70. If you're following along in the book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, we're on page 70, 71, 72, and 73. Now, on page 75, we have a depiction here of basically all the gear that we talked about in this entire section over the past several weeks. All the gear that we discussed, all laid out, and it shows you how to put it in the backpack, how to load it in your backpack. Now, some of the items on this list are actually stuff that we're going to go over today. So let's go ahead and get into the good stuff here. Now, miscellaneous in this category is basically for all other stuff that you may want to have on hand while you're out camping. I can't tell you how many times I got out into the woods and I set up camp and I wish I had brought some little bitty something. Like the weight was negligible. It would have been something that would have been very easy to bring. Case in point here would be a flashlight. I cannot tell you how many times I got into the woods and I forget to bring a flashlight. I think I've discussed that before on this podcast, but the flashlight is my nemesis. It's always the last thing on my mind. So, we're going to go through a couple more things, but at the end of this, I'm going to give you one real good thing that is always recommended. I always recommend this no matter where you are, unless it is 100% in the dead of winter. But a flashlight is always is one of the fairly essential items that you need to bring with you. And if you look here and if you're watching the video, I have in my hand an Energizer headlamp. These things are like $7 or $8, and it's got various settings of on and off. It's got a red light. It's got a bright light. It's got various settings, but the only downfall to this light is that it uses batteries. So it has a finite life. And it uses AAA batteries, 3 of them. And, although AAA batteries don't weigh a lot, you can actually pack several of them in your bag with you to take with you into the woods. And it's not going to really weigh you down. But, just remember that every time you turn that headlamp on, you're always burning energy and you're eventually getting to the point to where that battery is going to run down. And if you're like some of these individuals that I know, that you turn that headlight on as soon as it gets dark and you don't turn it off until you go to sleep, you ain't going to have a light, but maybe a day or two. And, so you got to really, really conserve energy when you're out there. It's kind of odd how we're talking about walking into the woods with a backpack on, minimal food, and conserving energy. But there's been many times, I can't tell you how many times I forgot to pack a replacement battery for a flashlight. I can't tell you how many times I forgot to carry a flashlight, believe it or not. And this day and age, there's so many lightweight options. I mean, in my hand right now, I have a very small, lightweight flashlight that can fit in your pocket. And this dude, I have taken it camping with me several times, and it is actually a pretty neat little investment to have. It's waterproof. If I drop it into the water, it's not going to go bad. And then whenever I get home, it just sits on the little charger and it recharges. So it is a great little asset to have with you in the woods, and it's good for many things. You can see a lot further with this at night than you can with a headlamp. And like I said, it may weigh 3 ounces, 2 ounces, something like that. It's not a lot, but it sure will help your convenience when you're out in the great outdoors. Now, another miscellaneous item that I carry is a lightweight solar lantern. And the reason why I carry these is because at nighttime, it's easy to have a lantern around camp so you can see. You don't have to use your headlamp as much, and so you can use these solar lanterns. And the type that I got two various kinds, and in the book I went over both of them. I have the Luminade Titan. Now, this dude right here is able to recharge or charge before you go into the woods and go out with a fully charged battery. Now, what I like about the Titan is that the Titan allows you to use this battery inside the solar lantern to be able to charge your cellular device or anything with a USB. So you could open this up and you could plug it in right here on the side. They have a large USB and a small USB where you can plug it in and charge devices. Now, the large USB is going to be for you charging. The small port is going to be for charging the device itself. But it has red lights and white lights, and it has strobing lights. So in case of an emergency or whatnot, I have one that is fully deployed. Here, this is what it looks like. It kind of looks like a little lunch pail. And that's the red light. Now, the red light is pretty cool because it allows you to maintain light discipline if you want to have low visibility lights outside for some reason. But it also, the more you press this, the more it's going to strobe. There we go. We got a strobe. If you need to have see, it looks like it's saying SOS, but it's a strobe light, a red strobe light. Now, you could do the same thing, and there's another button. All of a sudden, it's white light. Now, what I love about these little lanterns is the fact that they last 24 hours. You can, on high, I think high will last 20 hours. On low, you can get a lot more, and they're very easily foldable. They collapse, and you can throw them into your backpack, and you can head out into the woods. And whenever the battery gets exhausted on these things, you just set it out in the direct sunlight, and it'll charge itself up. And I think it takes like 7 hours of direct sunlight, and it'll have a fully charged battery. Now, I love solar lanterns. Now, there's another one. I didn't bring one for this video or this podcast, but it's called Luci, Luci, the Luci Solar Lantern. And it's I think they call it M-powered. M is in the letter M. M-powered by Luci, and it looks kind of like a little floaty for a swimming pool. And you blow it up and it expands, and you turn it on and it lights up the whole camping area, and it does solar power. And you can get that at Walmart for like $14 or $15. And like the Titans, you have to order off of Amazon or directly from Luminade. Now, when I'm out there in the camp, these things, those Titans usually last about 20 hours, and you don't have to have any kind of fuel for them. They don't get hot. You're not going to burn yourself, and they don't have to have mantles. So if you jar them, they're not going to break the mantles. So they have a lot of advantages to those. And we're just making it through hurricane season here in South Mississippi. And I know one thing is that these lights are perfect for hurricane season. These lights are perfect for when the electricity goes out. All the wind's got to do is just blow a little stronger than normal here in South Mississippi, and the electricity is going to go out. And I have a friend of mine that definitely all it has to do is turn dark in the sky, and the electricity at his house goes out. But the the Lucy's or the Luminades Titans, then they have different models for the Luminade, but those dudes right there are amazing at for disaster preparedness. Like if you're just trying to if you're in a place where prone to flooding or any kind of natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, earthquakes, stuff like that. These things I can't recommend enough to have a couple, 3 or 4 of them on hand. They're worth the investment. If the electricity goes out for an extended period of time, you will always have some kind of light. And, for me I'll forget a headlamp or a flashlight nearly every time I go into the woods, but I won't forget one of the solar lanterns. I always pack it. And don't ask me why, but that's always been the way I am. Another good thing is, leather gloves. Leather gloves are amazing little things to have. There's so many uses for them. You can, for instance, like I wrote in the book one time, I had a armadillo that I dispatched for dinner, and I used the gloves to, hold the critter down. And it was because in South America, Central American countries, armadillos have are known to carry leprosy. Now, armadillos throughout the United States are not so much, but still they are known to carry leprosy. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And so I went ahead and used my leather gloves. Now, another reason is when you get to camp and there's vines and stuff like that in the tree, and you're trying to hang, you want to hang a ridge line around trees and stuff like that, but you got to pull these thorny vines out of the woods or out of the trees. The gloves help with that. They also help you clean up an area underneath your shelter and allow you not to get splinters and thorns and all that good stuff in your fingers. So, leather gloves are a great idea to have with you in the woods. Plus, I mean, they do the regular things that what gloves are for, to help you not get splinters. Blenders. What is a blender? Oh man, sometimes my vocabulary. You can tell I'm from South Mississippi, can't you, boy? But anyway, so gloves are really used to protect your hands. They help you not develop splinters, not develop blisters. They help you not get splinters, and they protect your hands from heat and glass and anything to cut them. And they're just like armor for your hands. So leather gloves are amazing little items to have with you when you go into the woods. Now, I've discussed this before, and I've done several videos on these dudes, and I really feel like a multi-tool is another item that can prove invaluable. Now, I kind of went over them in the cutting tools section, but some people don't. I mean, you can consider it a cutting tool. It is a cutting tool, but it is a versatile tool. It has many tools in one. That's why they call it a multi-tool. But these dudes right there are very invaluable. This piece of gear can be classified as a cutting tool, but it has it can help you with many tasks. And if you get one from a very reputable brand, and mind you, I've said before on here when we was talking about cutting tools and stuff like that before, you don't have to spend $150 on a Leatherman P4 or a Leatherman Surge or a Leatherman whatever. You could spend $40 or $50 on Gerber or something, or a different name brand model multi-tool, because it does not have to be a certain name brand at a certain price point. Some people can't afford it. Some people can. Just because you can afford it, don't mean you really need it. And that's true with life itself. Is just because you can afford something don't mean you have to go out and spend all your money buying something, but that's neither here nor there. But still, these cutting tools are amazing little things. And I've used the pliers from multi-tools for cooking. for setting squirrel traps and, tightening loose nuts and bolts that I've come across that I needed to get fixed. Different little items on my camping gear and stuff like that. Leatherman they can do countless tasks. And one thing that I found that Leatherman is real good, or a multi-tool is real good at, is, having one with a saw blade and being able to do real small, fine saw work, and then being able to use the knife and do some real good wood carving, stuff like that. Now, some of the knives, I know the Leatherman brands are very good cutting tools, and they have a real good reputation of durability and strength. Gerber as well has a reputation of, strength and stuff like that. But then you're going to get into, it wasn't made in America. It was made in China. Don't buy it if it's made in China. Don't buy it if it's made. Come on, whatever. Let's move on. As for additional bedding that you might want to look into bringing, is, a wool blanket. And we'll go deep into this when we get into our shelter, because, a wool blanket is going to help augment your shelter. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more in there. But, a sleeping bag, stuff like that. You may not want to bring a sleeping bag with feather down. You may want to bring one with synthetic material. Each one of them has their pluses and their minuses, their pros and their cons. A leather, not a leather, but a feather down sleeping bag, sometimes it's going to be warmer. But if it gets wet, then it's going to be useless. It's not going to provide any insulation. So, there's a million different pros and cons to each thing that you do. You just have to evaluate which one's going to best work for you. And that's what it all boils down to, is what best works for you. So, I got a little item here that I wanted to discuss that I have not found. I had an individual send this to me to try to do a video on. I did a video on it, and then his company went bankrupt, I guess, and I haven't seen anything from them. You can't find them anywhere. I guess I got one of the only units, and so I keep this dude around my house. So what I have in my hands is a square box, if you can envision a square box, and when it has two little metal wings on the side, such as handles, and they fold up to the top. When they fold up to the top, you pull and the center comes out, and it is a lantern inside this box. Now, if you can see on the video, it is not coming on. That's because it's drained. But I'm going to show you and tell you and demonstrate you how this is so much different than anything else I found on the market. Now, this little box right here has a USB port on the side of it where you can charge it. Now, this USB port will allow you to charge your cellular device, and it'll also allow you to charge this unit. But what I love about this unit is that it has a handle on the bottom. And I'm going to try to get it to where you can hear this. It will wind up and charge. Now, if you're watching the video, you will see a little red light right there. That little red light means this thing is charging. So you can sit here for a few minutes, and if you don't have electricity, you don't have any way to charge this thing, you can sit here and hand charge it. It reminds me of the old emergency radios or the handheld charging flashlights. Charge this dude up. Now, you saw on the video, it was dead. The battery was dead. There was no light. Now, we've been doing that for a couple seconds. We're going to turn it on. Look at there. You have some light. And that's just after a few seconds of doing that charging. Now, what is cool about this little device, and I don't know where you can get this. I have searched everywhere for it since he sent this to me to test out to do a video. On the bottom, it has a handheld flashlight. You can use it as a handheld flashlight, but on the top of this thing, on the top of this device, it has a solar panel. You could set it out into the sun and you could charge it via solar. So this has to be the most amazing multi-use tool that I have seen in a long time. This thing is perfect for natural disasters. It's perfect for camping, and it does not weigh a lot. I wish I had the exact weight of it, but it does not weigh a lot. And I mean, this dude is an amazing emergency utensil. And, it's awesome. And the guy that did it, his business name was Uncle Mark. And so if you could do a Google search or some kind of search and find that Uncle Mark and see if he still has these, but he went out of business. He was on TikTok, set up a TikTok shop, and then all of a sudden he folded up shop and left. So, and he's an older dude, older fella, white-haired, older guy, and he contacted me and asked me to do this. I think it was called Uncle Mark Camping or something to that effect. All right, so, as I mentioned in the introduction of my book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, I always usually carry a first aid kit, a basic first aid kit. It is very wise to carry a basic first aid kit with you when you head out into the great outdoors. And as I mentioned in the book, 90% of the time, I say 90% of the time. I don't know if this is a true statistic or not, but I'm going to say the majority of the time when you head out into the woods and you have to use that first aid kit, you're going to use that first aid kit on somebody else rather than yourself. And that's just a proven fact, because you, the majority of the time, are going to be cognizant and, paying attention to all the little errors and stuff like that. Accidents are going to happen. I get it. Accidents are going to happen. You're going to reach down and you're going to grab a piece of hot something that's going to burn you. Your knife's going to slip. It's going to cut you. You're going to trip and fall. You're going to have puncture wounds. Accidents are going to happen. That's a given. But the most of the time, you're going to be cognizant of what's happening. You're going to be able to pay attention to the details, and you will actually make yourself, you will push through certain things. You will make sure you are accident free, But a first aid kit is highly recommended when you head out into the woods. A basic first aid kit can have, it'll save you from blisters and cuts and even some significant injuries. Like my kit, I would be able to sew somebody up, give them sutures if I needed to, and stuff like that. But this stuff's going to happen. Cuts are going to it's going to happen, especially in the outdoors. You hold a knife wrong, you're not paying attention, and you swing an axe. It misses. You hit a foot. You hit an ankle. You hit your shin. Whatever. You're going to have a nasty little cut there. And, this, this thing about first aid kits is they don't have to be very technical things. If you think about what's the most common injuries that's going to happen to you in the woods, think about it. It's not that difficult. You're going to have blisters, cuts, splinters, sprains or strains, and or broken or severed limbs, severed digits, stuff like that. Those are the main things that's going to happen to you in the woods, accident wise. Now, it's a whole different ball game when you start getting into medically wise, and by medical, I'm talking about strokes and heart attacks and, kidneys and appendicitis and, gallbladder issues, stuff like that. That's medical issues. I'm talking about accidents. I'm talking about stuff that happens from exertion. You have to exert yourself for something to happen, and that's what happens with blisters and splinters. Is picking up something, you got a splinter, it's going to happen. Fish hooks, you get a fish hook in your hand, you need to know how to take that out. stuff like that. And, a first aid kit, a basic first aid kit that covers those basic items is going to cover you when you go into the woods. Now, optional loads. We discussed optional loads in here. So, what I like to bring with me when I go camping is a hammock. I've discussed this all throughout this gear section. I've discussed this through the shelter section. I am a hammock dude, and I just most recently upgraded to a lay flat hammock, and I'm getting used to it. No, I've only stayed in it one night so far, but it was in the next couple of weeks, I will be definitely out in the woods checking it out again. But the beauty of it is that it can be set up as a ground tent, or it can be set up as a lay flat hammock. Man, I love a hammock. I don't know why. I always have. I feel more secure in a hammock than I do in a tent for some reason. In the military, whenever we wake up in the morning and there would be scorpions on the ground, I don't like stuff on the ground. I don't do it. You have to shake out your boots and make sure there aren't no scorpions in your boots, stuff like that. Now, once again, this all the stuff that we have discussed so far in this book about gear is not the end all be all. It is not. Gear is a personal preference. It's a personal opinion. It's not me. I'm just trying to get you to think about items that would be handy for you. And then, some people will start off with a lot of gear. And then as you get better and you realize I don't need this. I could cut this on the next trip. And then I could cut this on the next trip. And next thing you know, they have a 55-liter backpack that is full, and the majority of the stuff in that is just food or, clothing. And they just don't need every single thing that everybody thinks you need to go camping. Now, true story. We're going to start telling stories here. All right. Everybody loves a good story. We'll tell this story, and then we'll start winding down for the next one. So, growing up, my dad would always, when we get ready to go camping, he'd make a laundry list of things that we needed for the trip. I mean, we would have to bring a whole cord of firewood with us in the back of the truck. Then we'd have to bring 30 gallons of water. I mean, just gallons and gallons of water. Then we would have to bring the tents. Then we'd have to bring all the air mattresses. Then we'd bring all the food and the ice chests. And then we'd bring this and that and the other. And by the time it was done, and I kid you not, if I could find a photo when I'm editing this video, if I could find the photo, I will put it in here in this video. A photograph of my dad's truck whenever he went camping. And I'm telling you now, guys, it looked like an episode of the Beverly Hillbillies coming to town. It really did. I mean, if there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that's exactly what it looked like. That's exactly what it reminded me of. An episode of the Beverly Hillbillies. And it was crazy. Now, one of these photographs, my brother, was it Tim? I think it was Aaron and Tim. No, it was Tim. So I got 3 brothers, by the way. And my brother Tim was there, and my dad was there. And when it was done, he had a bow target that he set up on one of those garage sale signs that you stick out in the yard. And on the back side of it, it said garage sale. On the other side of it, it was a bow target. So when he was unloading his truck, I took that sign and I set it out by the road. And people actually showed up. That was crazy. So, but anyway, you don't have to carry a lot of stuff with you whenever you go camping. You do not have to. It is your preference. It is up to you. Now, there's going to be a lot of quote unquote bushcrafters and survivalists, and I noticed a lot of stuff in the survival world starting to get real, I don't know, real weird. But it's up to you. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you. It's up to you. What do you want to bring with you? It's not up to somebody saying, oh, you can't go camping, or you can't practice bushcraft, or you can't practice survival if you bring all that gear that Chris Speir said to bring in his book. No, I didn't say to bring any gear, other than just a metal container, a knife, and a cutting tool, and a tarp for shelter. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Or a fire starting device, those little 5 items. I think what Dave Canterbury calls it, the 5 C's of survivability, and everybody's modeled it after that. But, that's all. That's, everybody knows these things. Majority of the people know it. And if you don't, guess what? You're going to learn it. You're going to learn that, these 5 categories of 5 things that we talked about in the gear section, or before we got in the gear section. But these 5 areas are going to be filled. They're like a checkbox. Then you can make it whatever you want. You can add to it. You can subtract from it. You can go where you want. You can do what you want. It doesn't matter. As long as it is what you want. You don't listen to somebody else. You don't do something else. You do your own thinking, and you think for yourself, and you get out there and you do it. And you could tell that I have been building this up and been talking about this and talk about this and talk about this. You can't pull up a YouTube video this day and age without somebody saying, you can't go camping like this. You have to do this. That's not the case. That is he's doing that in order for him to get more views on his YouTube channel. It kicks in the algorithm because it causes controversy with you, and it makes you leave a comment or hit the thumbs down button. Believe it or not, when you hit that thumbs down button, you are still showing that video is engageable, and you're engaging with that video, and it propels that video out there for even more. Thumbs up, thumbs down. It does not matter. Negative feedback, positive feedback is all engagement, and it shows YouTube that this video has something, sends it out. Now, these folks are designing these thumbnails and designing the topics of their videos and designing the content in their videos to spark some kind of an emotion inside of you to get you to engage with that video. And once you engage with that video, it's causing the YouTube algorithm to send it out to more people to do the same thing you did. Feel something emotional about the video, cause you to engage with it, whether it's a like or share, a comment, or anything like that. And then once you do all that stuff, then it triggers the algorithm for more people to watch that video. And it's just a repeat process. And so these individuals will say things that they know are not true, that they know it does not matter. And they will do it just for the emotional feedback, for the tangible feedback that you're going to give YouTube, so it triggers the algorithm, it propels their video. That is a fact. That is 100% truth. And if you can argue with me all day long, you want to, but you go right on ahead. But that is the absolute 100% truth. Oh, and real quick, I forgot that I told you at the end of the video, I was going to show you a piece of gear that I bring with me that makes my life a lot easier. And that is, my friends, called a thermocell. This thing is amazing. If you have never seen one or never used one, this piece of gear is amazing when it comes to keeping mosquitoes and biting insects away. And if you live in an environment where it's a very high mosquito population or biting flies or insects or something to that effect, this little device right here, it has a butane cartridge in here, and that is filled up with butane, and you stick it in here and screw it in, and then it has a little let's see if I can get it out of here. You're not supposed to touch that, but we'll do it for the sake of enjoyment here on the video. it has a little card. You see that card is blue and it's got a little white center. That's because I've used it on a trip. But you insert that card in here like that, and this thing heats up, and this puts out a smell that them mosquito bugs absolutely cannot stand, and it keeps them away. And it is guaranteed for up to a 15 by 15 radius area. And so you got a 15-foot radius, and that dude is amazing. And I used mine. I brought one, and my friend brought one on the last camping trip we went on, and that was the kayaking camping trip video on YouTube. And he kept his by his tent, and I kept mine by mine. And then all the way between the two tents, and there was no mosquitoes where we hung out, ate dinner and stuff like that. So, but anyway, if you were looking for something that is economical, I think this whole device is like $29. I want to say. I don't recall how much it is. Matter of fact, in early deer season when you're bow hunting, I have one of these to keep the mosquitoes off of me when I'm sitting in a tree stand, and the smell does not startle the deer, doesn't bother the deer at all. It doesn't have really much of a smell to it. You can get earth scent, you can get cedar, you can get different flavor smells for this thing, but it really does keep the mosquito bugs away. All right, now, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you next time. God bless you.